picture a bird that's fallen into the water with its wings all wet. Over time, the bird forgets it can fly and just focuses on staying afloat. When the water is calm, it feels safe, but when waves hit, it struggles to keep its head up. Having been through rough waters before, the bird becomes obsessed with keeping things calm. It starts believing that its actions, like chirping or looking a certain way, control the water. It even prays, thinking it might help keep the water still. The bird's whole life revolves around controlling the water, never realizing it could fly away. It forgets there's more to life than just staying in the water. It's all about the water now. I am this water. I'm in this water. That's my life. I feel it and you can't tell me otherwise. Every time the water moves, I move. This is me. Now, this situation I'm telling you, it's exactly how a person gets caught up in their own mind. Your mind isn't who you are, never was, never will be. Just like that water isn't who that bird is, no matter what's going on with it, whether it's calm or stormy. The water is not the bird, just like your mind isn't you. The bird is floating on the water, but it's not the water. It's its own thing, completely separate. Just like that, your consciousness, your awareness of just being here, is floating on the waves of your mind. In yoga, they call these waves vrittis. If you go deep enough into yourself and get real quiet, you'll notice these vrittis in your mind. When a thought pops up, it starts as a little vibration, like a tiny wave. That wave rises, and those thoughts start talking to you like, "Why'd you do that? Maybe if I..." But you, as someone who meditates and dives deep, can see that every thought has a beginning, a middle, and an end. You can watch them, just like you'd watch little waves on a lake. You see them, right? They start, they grow, and then they fade away. That's exactly what your thoughts do. They rise and fall in a calm mind. When the mind is calm, it's like the water on a still lake. If nothing is messing with the water, no leaves falling in, no wind blowing, no rain hitting it, it stays calm. You understand? The water's natural state is calm unless something stirs it up. Well, your mind is exactly the same. Its natural state is calm. It's not about being blank or stupid. It's just calm. When Buddhists talk about the void, they don't mean emptiness in a negative way. The calm water isn't stupid, it's still water. All the potential for waves is there, but nothing is causing them to happen. The natural state of your mind is complete peace, total calm. It's not about thinking positive thoughts. Positive thoughts are just gentle waves, and negative thoughts are like stormy waves. But beyond all that, it's just empty. Empty in the sense that it's still. That's what Zen means by empty mind or the void. It doesn't mean there's nothing there. It means there's nothing disturbing the calm. The natural state of the mind is like calm water, completely still. A great spiritual master once said, "The purified mind is no different than the self." That's some deep stuff right there. When the mind is calm, it's like an empty vessel. There's nothing there but pure awareness, just consciousness aware of itself. If you look into perfectly still water, you'll see your reflection, right? But if there are ripples, the reflection gets all messed up. So, in deep meditation, it's like that still water. You don't even know you're in meditation until you come out of it. While you're in deep meditation, there's no mind. It's not creating thoughts. You're not sitting there thinking, "Oh, I'm meditating." If you're thinking that, you're not in deep meditation. There's just this pure sense of being, and you're not even thinking, "I'm being." You're just there being. The mind isn't pulling you away from that pure state. That's what it means when they say, "The purified mind is no different than the self." It's not like your true self is sitting there watching a calm mind. There's nothing pulling your awareness away from just being. You're simply aware of being, even though you're floating through the mind. But the mind is empty, an empty mind. You see, the beauty of Zen's idea of an empty mind, the empty bell, and the void is that it's not really different from what other traditions teach. They just call it by different names. But the core message is the same. The most important thing is that you are you. You are the bird, the self, the consciousness, the awareness of just being here, and you're floating on top of your mind. The problem is that your mind is never still. It's always moving, always creating waves, and it's rare. Maybe once in a blue moon that you experience a completely still mind during deep meditation. If you really pay attention, you'll notice that your mind is constantly making ripples, constantly creating little disturbances. It's hard to believe, but it's true. Now, like I said, you won't even realize how restless your mind is until you've experienced a truly still mind because you've become so used to the noise. You're just like that bird floating on a mind that's always saying, "I'm okay right now, nothing's bothering me." But that's just the mind talking. Those are the ripples. When you think, "Wow, I love this situation, I'm so happy, this is the best time of my life," that's still your mind. Don't get it twisted. Your mind isn't just the negative thoughts. It's all the thoughts, all those little waves coming up in the lake of your inner state, your psyche, your emotions. I want you to picture your mind and emotions as a lake. Do you ever see that lake perfectly still? Probably not, right? It takes effort to make it still. You have to meditate, practice yoga, repeat mantras, and do all sorts of things to calm it down. But even those techniques, like chanting a mantra, don't really still the mind. Mantras don't stop the waves. They just make them more consistent, more manageable. It's like the mind is always repeating the same thing over and over, making it easier to float on top of it. If your mind is constantly chanting God, 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 or something like that, it's a much calmer place to rest than a mind that's freaking out thinking, "Oh my God, why did I say that? I shouldn't have said that. I'm so embarrassed. Should I call her? No, don't call her." That's the mind running wild. Is that just me, or does your mind do that too? I had a feeling it does. So, your mind is always creating these ripples. Let's slow down and really think about this. It doesn't have to be that way. Your mind wasn't meant to be in constant turmoil. Life wasn't supposed to be so hard because of it. When your mind is like that, life becomes very difficult to handle. Just like that bird has a tough time when the water is full of noise, ripples, and waves. And don't even get me started on the really tough times. We all know how hard those are. When someone dies, when your loved one leaves you, when sickness hits, it gets rough. And suddenly the mind goes into complete chaos. It can get so overwhelming, can't it? You felt that, right? It can become so intense, so stormy inside that it feels like a hurricane or a tsunami is going on in your head. It becomes unbelievable and unbearable. That's just like the bird floating on that same mind. But when the mind becomes too chaotic, it feels like it's pulling you under. You start drowning in it, and that's exactly how it feels, doesn't it? Like you're drowning, like you're dying, like it's killing you. Every single one of you has the ability to handle this, to calm your mind down. You can become so steady, so strong, that eventually, just like the sun dries off a bird's wings, you realize you can fly. And when that happens, you'll never have to deal with that chaos again. You won't even remember what it felt like to be stuck in that water, struggling to stay afloat. That's what real freedom is all about. That's what they call Jivan Mukta, a liberated soul, someone who has pulled themselves out of the mind's mess, risen above it. That's what transcending means. It means you've pulled yourself out of that constant struggle with your mind. Now let's talk about why you're stuck resting on the mind in the first place. Like I said earlier, when you look at a lake or any body of water, there are forces that cause it to ripple and make waves. But the natural state of water, and this is something any physicist would agree with, is to be still. If you leave water alone, don't mess with it, what happens? It calms down, right? It just settles into a peaceful state, perfectly balanced. Its natural state is equilibrium. It takes energy, some kind of force, to disturb it. That's Newton's law in action. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if a raindrop falls into the water, that's the action, and the ripples are the reaction. Stick your hand in the water, and the water moves, exactly matching the size and shape of your hand. That's what's going on with the mind, too. So, how does this relate to your mind? Why is it that your mind, which is supposed to be calm, quiet, and peaceful, is instead always full of noise and chaos. The mind was meant to be a beautiful, empty, quiet space until you need to use it. There's nothing wrong with floating on the water, just like there's nothing wrong with using your mind. Picture a bird flying high above a wetland, and sometimes it dives down to catch a fish or just floats on the water. Birds like blue herons do that. They float on the water, drying their wings. So, you can enjoy the water. You can enjoy using your mind. You're allowed to create ripples, to have thoughts that help you achieve what you're trying to do. For example, if you're trying to figure out why electricity flows through a wire, it's perfectly fine to let your mind create some thoughts, to think through the problem. There's nothing wrong with that. The mind is a beautiful tool, a playground even. But it stops being a playground when it starts creating all those ripples and noise on its own, and especially when it starts dragging you down, pulling you under. You get caught up in it, and suddenly, you don't even know who you are anymore. You start to believe that you are this disturbed, chaotic mind, just trying to find some peace, trying not to be overwhelmed. But that's not who you really are. You're not the chaos. You're the one who's supposed to be above it, flying free. You're always trying to avoid being disturbed, aren't you? Think of it like this. I painted a clear picture of a bird on the water. Every word I used was accurate, no exaggeration. The bird is floating on the water, but when the water gets rough, it struggles. So what does it do? It tries to keep the water calm. This is exactly what you're doing every moment of your life. You might think you're trying to get a better job, find a partner, make friends, or gain people's approval, but really you're just trying to calm your mind. You think getting a partner will quiet your mind, or that people liking you will make your mind say nice things to you. Do you see that? You probably don't realize how much you're caught up in this. Remember opposite day from kindergarten? Let's play that for a minute. Imagine if someone walked up to you and said, "Wow, you look like you've aged 60 years since I last saw you. What happened to you?" Now imagine your mind responding with, "Oh, I love that. Tell me more. That's so beautiful. Thank you." What if you actually enjoyed criticism as much as praise? You'd be free, right? But the truth is, you only want people to say nice things to you because it calms your mind. When someone says, "I've never loved anyone as much as I love you," it's not their words that matter. It's the fact that their words make your mind feel peaceful. But think about it this way. What if those same loving words were coming from a stalker standing outside your bedroom window? Suddenly it doesn't feel so nice, does it? See, it's not the words or actions that you really care about. It's the effect they have on your mind. The truth is, you don't care about the world as much as you think. Not because you've meditated your way to some spiritual enlightenment, but because deep down, no one truly cares about this world in that way. Even the richest person who's obsessed with money doesn't actually care about money. They just care about how it makes them feel. They become the richest person on the Forbes list. And for a moment, their mind goes, "Ah." But what if the night before, they had a dream that told them, if you end up on that Forbes cover, you'll never have peace again. People will come after you, and you'll regret ever being number one. Suddenly, being number two might sound a lot better, right? Do you see now? You're not chasing things because you really care about them. You're just trying to keep your mind from being disturbed. You like things because they make your mind feel calm. You don't like things when they upset or disturb your mind. It's as simple as that. It's not the other way around. If something makes your mind feel peaceful, you feel comfortable and happy, so you like it. If something stirs up trouble in your mind, you don't like it. Imagine standing in front of a beautiful painting by Monet or Matisse. You might say, "Wow, this painting is stunning." But why do you think it's beautiful? Because it makes your mind quiet, peaceful, and relaxed. Now, what if someone told you that the painting was stolen during the Nazi era? Suddenly, your mind would get disturbed by the idea of theft and injustice, and you wouldn't find the painting so beautiful anymore. That's why they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but actually, beauty is in the mind of the beholder. If your mind changes even slightly, what seemed beautiful before may no longer seem so. Think about that for a moment. You're like a bird on water. When the water is calm, the bird is at peace. When the water gets rough, the bird is stressed. What happens then? The bird spends all its energy trying to figure out how to keep the water calm. But it forgets that the water isn't under its control. You're doing the same thing. You're trying to control everything around you. Your thoughts, your actions, even your past mistakes, thinking that will bring you peace. But like the bird, you're trying to control something that's not in your control. The bird can't control the state of the water, but the water's state affects the bird because it floats on it. Similarly, you can't control the things that disturb your mind, but because your mind is always resting on them, they affect your state of being. You struggle with the fact that these things aren't in your control. You say, "I'm not happy, I thought I would be happy. We've been married 5 years, but it's just not working anymore." What's really happening? The calm waters of your mind, which were once peaceful during the honeymoon phase, are now disturbed by job loss, problems having children, or other challenges. Your mind says, "I don't like this," so you don't like it. Do you see what's happening? It's not that you genuinely don't like these things. It's that your mind, which you're resting on, doesn't like them. That's why you don't like them. You're the consciousness, the awareness, but you're stuck on a mind that is upset and restless. You've become so lost in your mind that you've lost touch with who you really are. Whatever your mind feels, that's how you feel. You're just like that bird on the water, thinking there's no way to be okay unless the water is calm. So you try to control everything around you to keep your mind comfortable and calm. You keep trying to adjust the world so that your mind stays at peace and doesn't get disturbed. This is what everyone is doing. You are serving your mind. Whatever state your mind is in drives your actions. You're constantly trying to change, manipulate, or control the outside world so that when it gets to you, your mind feels at ease instead of upset. Now, has there ever been a time when your mind said, "I don't want to go there, I don't like that," and you still felt good going? Probably not, right? It might sound silly, but it's true. It's just your mind. It's just like a body of water that can have ripples or be still, right? Sometimes it's calm and sometimes it's disturbed, just like the water. But none of that has anything to do with who you really are. You are the one experiencing everything that happens to you. If you tell me, "Oh my God, my heart hurts, and my mind is driving me crazy since he left," I'm going to ask you a very simple question, one you probably won't like. I'll ask, "How do you know? How do you know your heart is hurting?" You've likely never thought about that question before. All you care about is making the pain stop. You think, "How do I make it go away? What do I need to do?" But instead of rushing to stop the pain, I'm asking you to consider how you even know it's there in the first place. The answer is that you know it hurts because there is a part of you that is aware of the pain. You're in there, experiencing it, observing it, saying, "Whoa, my heart hurts." But think about it. You're not the hurting heart itself. You're the one who is aware that your heart hurts. You said, "My heart hurts." Whose "my" are we talking about? The word "my" is a possessive pronoun. Your words are actually very meaningful. When you say, "My hand hurts," you're not saying, "I am the hand." You're saying, "It's my hand." Who is the "my" here? You don't identify yourself as a purse, a piano, or a car, right? Similarly, you are not your hand. You are the one who notices that the hand hurts and calls it mine. Look at how loosely we use the word mine. Imagine you walk into a car dealership without owning a car. Someone asks you, "Where's your car?" and you reply, "I don't have one." Then you buy a car and suddenly it's my car. How did it become yours? It's not you, it's just something you possess. You were there before you had the car and you are still the same person after getting the car, right? You, the awareness inside, haven't changed. Now, here's something you may not like to hear. If you were looking at your hand and it suddenly got chopped off, you would still be there, looking at the place where your hand used to be. You wouldn't have changed one bit. You'd still be the same conscious being inside, saying, "What happened to my hand? Where did it go?" The awareness, the consciousness, that's you. You are the same person whether you have a hand or not. It's the same thing with your inner feelings. When you say, "My heart hurts," whose heart are you talking about? You are the one who notices the pain, who feels that inner turmoil. You are the experiencer of that hurting heart. Has your heart always hurt? No. How do you know? Because you've always been there, watching and experiencing. You were there when it didn't hurt, and you're still there now that it does. You've always been the same awareness, observing what happens to you. Think about this. Did your heart ever hurt when you were 12 years old? And if it did, how did you know? It was the same you who noticed it back then, just as it is the same you who knows it now. You are the constant observer, always there, always aware, no matter what is happening to your body, mind, or emotions. You are like the bird, a consciousness floating on the ocean of your mind. When the waters are calm, you feel good. When they're stormy, you don't. This is something you instinctively know. Think about it. It's like something very basic, like what a caveman might say. Me, like calm. Me, no, like turmoil. It's simple, isn't it? You didn't need your parents or a teacher to tell you that. This is just part of who you are. It's as natural as breathing. Of course you want to feel comfortable inside. Who wouldn't? Nobody wants to feel like they're drowning in their own mind. You can't give up this desire to feel okay. It's part of your very nature. You are a being inside, resting on this lake of your mind. But you're so caught up in the waves, in the constant shifting of the water, that you don't even realize this is happening. You are only okay when the lake is calm, and never okay when it's choppy or stormy. This is something we often don't fully understand, but this is exactly what practices like yoga are trying to teach us. The simple idea that you are not your mind, but rather you are the one who is resting on your mind. Therefore, you experience whatever state your mind is in. When the mind is calm, you feel at peace. When it's in turmoil, you feel uneasy. But here's the thing. You don't really know what to do about this. The only thing you've noticed is that certain things outside of you can influence your mind state. If someone says something nice to you, your mind might like it and become quiet. If someone says something you don't like, your mind becomes restless and agitated. You see, all of this is just your mind reacting. Sometimes it likes what's happening and sometimes it doesn't. But you are not the mind itself. You are the one who notices these reactions. You're the observer, watching all these thoughts and feelings pass by, like a bird floating on a lake. And until you realize this, you'll always feel tossed around by whatever is happening in your mind. Think of yourself like the bird floating on a lake. When the water is calm, you feel fine, maybe even better than fine. But when the water is choppy and tumultuous, you're not okay at all. The problem is, you've noticed that things happening in the world around you, things outside of you, can affect the state of that water, or in this case, your mind. So what do? You start trying to control or change things around you, thinking that if you just fix the outside world, your mind will calm down. You try to make sure nothing disturbing comes your way, hoping that this will keep your mind from getting upset. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Be honest, because we've all done it. But here's the thing. Trying to control the world around you to make your mind peaceful is like a bird trying to calm the ocean. Good luck with that. You start to feel like you have no choice but to make changes. I'm not happy, so I have to find a new relationship, or I need to switch jobs, or I need to move somewhere else. Your mind starts running you, making all these demands, telling you all these things you have to do to make it feel better. And here's where it gets really crazy. When your mind is upset and you want to calm it down, what do? You go right back to that same disturbed mind and ask it for advice. You ask the same mind that's causing all the problems, what should I do to fix this? Do you see the absurdity in that? If your mind is not okay, It doesn't know how to be okay. It's like asking jealousy itself how to stop being jealous. Jealousy can't teach you that because it's jealous by nature. You have to step back, detach a little, and find some clarity. Instead, what most people do is go deeper into the confusion. The point is, when your mind is disturbed, it's bad enough that you're experiencing that turmoil. But what's worse is when you ask that same disturbed mind for guidance on how to fix the world outside of you. You ask it, "What should I do to make this better?" But all it knows is its own confusion. Maybe someone says they're going to leave you, and your mind jumps to the worst conclusions. Should I threaten them? Should I do something drastic? That's how a disturbed mind operates. It can't see clearly, and it can't give you good advice. So, recognize this pattern. Understand that when your mind is disturbed, going to it for answers is like trying to fix a leaky boat with more holes. Instead, you have to find a way to step back from the chaos, see things as they are, and understand that you are not the turmoil. You're the one observing it. You see, you are just like that bird sitting on the water, resting on your mind. Sometimes your mind is calm, sometimes it's stirred up, and most of the time you have no idea why it's acting the way it does. You just know that you want it to be calm and peaceful, right? So, what do? You start making all kinds of plans and schemes to make it happen, to feel better. Take a look at your own life. You might be unhappy with your living conditions, and your mind starts spinning with ideas. If I get a raise, I can invest that money. Maybe I should put it into the stock market. Or, I've heard that Bitcoin has gone up 800% in the last few months. Maybe I should put all my money there. And then you start thinking, if I do that, I'll become wealthy, and then I can buy a nicer car, and that will help me attract the right person. Because right now, I don't want to attract anyone the way I am. The kind of person who would be interested in me now isn't the kind of person I'd want to be with later when I'm more successful. Sounds logical, doesn't it? Your mind can make anything sound sensible when it's chasing peace. But here's the problem. When your mind is disturbed, you turn to that very same disturbed mind for answers. And what does it do? It tries to figure out a solution by thinking and thinking some more. Have you ever noticed that throughout your entire life, all your mind has done is complain that things aren't okay, and then try to figure out what needs to change so you can feel better? At no point does your mind say, "Hey, I'm not okay, I should just quiet down." No, it doesn't do that. It just keeps trying to solve the problem, always searching for some way to fix things. People often ask, "Why doesn't that voice in my head ever shut up?" Well, it's because you've asked it to solve your problems and it's stuck in that loop, trying to figure everything out all the time. It's always thinking, analyzing, and worrying because you told it that's its job. But here's what your mind never realizes. The real problem is not the situation you're worried about. The real issue is that your mind won't stop complaining about everything. Instead of figuring out what's wrong with the outside world, the mind should realize that its constant chatter and dissatisfaction are what's keeping you from peace. But it never does. It just keeps going, trying to fix whatever it's complaining about without ever understanding that it's the complaining itself that's the problem. So, what does all of this really mean? It's exactly what the bird experiences when it's floating on the water. You are like that bird, resting on the surface of your mind. When your mind gets disturbed, you can't separate yourself from those thoughts and feelings. When your mind is troubled, you feel troubled too. That's just how it works. You're floating on your mind, and your state depends on it. And the only way you know how to feel okay is when things on the outside calm your mind. That's all your mind understands. If something from the outside world brings peace, then you feel peaceful. So what do? You start trying to figure out exactly how the world around you needs to be to keep your mind quiet. You plan down to the smallest detail, especially when it comes to relationships. You have this perfect picture in your head of how your partner should behave, don't you? And if they're not acting that way, you think, "No problem, I'll fix them." How's that going for you? Is your relationship still a work in progress? Do you see what I'm getting at from all these different angles? Now you're stuck in this cycle where you believe you need to figure out how the whole world should be just so you can feel okay. And you're trying to do this while already feeling upset or disturbed. Good luck with that. And here's the kicker. You think you've got it all figured out. Maybe you went to a seminar or listened to a life coach, and now you feel like you've had an aha moment. You've got a new strategy. You think, I see what I've been doing wrong. I need to change this and focus on that, and then I'll finally be okay. Great. I'm happy that you feel optimistic, but now go out there and actually make it happen. What I'm saying is like that bird thinking it can somehow make the water calm just by wishing it so. The world outside of you, the one you see and experience right now, didn't even exist a moment ago in the exact way it does now. Where did this world come from? Did it appear just because you wanted it to? Did it come into being because it fits the story you made up in your head about how things should be? No, that's not how it works. The world is shaped by countless forces, things like physics, chemistry, biology, psychology. Everything you see around you is the result of all these different forces coming together, not because of what you wished for. Think about this. How much of what happens around you is actually controlled by what you want? You might think, I want that job, and you believe that your desire alone is enough to make it happen. But think about everything that goes into creating that job. The company, the people who work there, your previous work experiences, your skills. There are countless factors that play a role. Millions of variables. The fact that you want the job doesn't actually make it happen. It's just something you've decided in your mind that would make you feel good. If I get the job, I'll be happy, you say. But that thought alone isn't a cause in the real world. I know this can be a hard way of thinking, but think about it. Did any science book you ever studied say things happen just because you want them to? Did you ever read in a book about meteorology, physics, or chemistry that the rain came because it was your birthday and someone wanted to mess with you? Of course not. Weather patterns, like everything else in the universe, are the result of natural forces, not your personal desires. It didn't rain on your birthday because it was your birthday, and nothing else in the world happens just because you do or don't want it to. Everything that happens is the result of countless causes and effects, trillions of them. You see a person and think, he's perfect, but he's too short for me. His height has nothing to do with you. He is short because of genetics, because his ancestors met and passed on certain traits. His height isn't about you at all. You weren't even around when his genetics were being decided. Every moment you experience is shaped by all the moments that came before it. It's like the ocean the bird is floating on. The bird might think it's somehow causing the waves, but it's not. The waves are the result of all kinds of forces. The wind, the moon, the Earth's rotation. The bird isn't in control. And neither are you when it comes to the world around you. You want to believe you're in control because the idea that you're not is scary. It means that at any moment things could get rough and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's a tough reality to accept, but it's the truth. No, I do have control over this. It's about how I'm looking at things, what I'm telling myself in my head, how I sang my song before, and maybe even some karma from a past life. But don't worry about that. Just focus on enjoying yourself. Have fun letting your mind imagine a world where you believe you have control over what's happening. But in reality, you don't. Like Christ said, let those who have eyes see and let those who have ears hear. That means the world is constantly unfolding in front of you, and you're experiencing it through your senses. You've got some work to do to deal with that. If you can't handle what's really happening, and if you keep trying to control everything, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to struggle, suffer, and become anxious, just like that bird in the example. You'll start thinking, I have to figure out how to make everything perfect. I'm doing everything I can. How do I control it? And then you'll just be stuck in your thoughts all the time. Every time you meet someone new, you'll feel uncomfortable. You might worry about not impressing them, or that they won't like you, or that it could cause problems. They might even know someone from your past. This discomfort is always there inside you. I'm saying that, as humans, we all experience this discomfort, no matter what. Sometimes there are moments of happiness, but they don't last long, right? There's always that underlying fear that something will go wrong. Maybe you'll say the wrong thing. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and kept thinking about it? The conversation is over, but in your mind it's still going on. You might think, why did I say that? I was doing so well until I said that. That's fear. Now let's go back to what we talked about earlier. There are forces that make the water act the way it does, and there are forces that shape your mind the way it is. You're not choosing to have an anxious or neurotic mind. It's the result of your past experiences. Some experiences made you feel comfortable, and that's natural. Others made you feel uncomfortable, and that's natural too. Imagine you're standing with 3 other people who love nature. 2 beautiful monarch butterflies fly around and land on your arm. How do you feel? As I thought. Imagine a rattlesnake slowly crawling up to you. It's not on your arm yet, just near you. Now how do you feel? You see, those things like butterflies landing on your arm or a rattlesnake rattling have nothing to do with you. You didn't make the butterflies land there or cause the rattlesnake to rattle. But when they show up, they make you feel a certain way, either comfortable or uncomfortable. That's what Buddhists mean by the nature of things. Everything has its own nature and nobody is denying that. So when these things come into your life, they create changes in your thoughts or emotions, just like ripples in water. But here's the thing, those ripples don't last forever. When a leaf falls into water, it makes ripples, but those ripples eventually disappear. You can't stop the ripples from happening when the leaf falls, just like you can't stop certain thoughts or emotions from coming up. If you try to interfere with those natural ripples, you'll just create more. For example, if you try to catch the leaf before it falls, you'll only make more splashes in the water. The best thing to do is let the natural forces calm the ripples down on their own. Butterflies may land on you, and that's beautiful. Rattlesnakes might rattle, which is less pleasant. But in both cases, it's just the natural way of things. When no other forces are messing with you, you're fine. Most of the time, though, it's you who's disturbing your own mind. You're worrying about what might happen in the future or clinging to what happened in the past. I've observed my own mind, and I've noticed that most of the problems my mind creates are about things I decided I want or don't want. They're not actual threats like rattlesnakes or butterflies. For example, I might think, what if it rains when I go on vacation? I don't want rain in Hawaii. But there's no rain right now. My mind is just making ripples by worrying about something that isn't even happening. The reason these ripples happen is because of your past experiences. Some were pleasant and some were not, and you've held on to them. Instead of letting these experiences fade away like ripples in water, you've kept them alive in your mind. If something didn't affect you strongly, you let it go, like white lines on the road or clouds in the sky. But if something was very pleasant or unpleasant, it's likely still with you, leaving a mark on your mind. Here's what happens. As life unfolds, you start judging it based on what you think it will be like. You try to control what's happening by constantly thinking about it. This means you're always living in your head, trying to figure everything out. And let's be honest, it's rarely calm in there, right? You're constantly busy with your thoughts. But what can you do instead? You need to realize that your mind is like water. When the water is disturbed, it's uncomfortable to be in. When it's calm, it's nice to be in. So, how do you stop getting caught up in your mind? Why not just let your mind be as it is? When it sees something scary, like a rattlesnake, it gets disturbed. When it sees something beautiful like butterflies, it feels calm. That's just how it works. It's like the changing seasons or the weather. Rain can be nice, and so can the wind. So why not be okay with the fact that your mind reacts to different things? That's natural. Think of your mind like a mirror. It reflects whatever is in front of it. When something happens, your mind reacts. But these reactions come and go quickly. For example, if someone yells at you saying, "Why did you do that? I told you not to," you might think, "They're wrong, that wasn't about me." And then you let it go. The next time you see that person, you don't hold on to that incident. You might not even mention it because it didn't stick with you. That's having a beginner's mind. It's fresh and clean, not weighed down by past experiences. You didn't take it personally, and you didn't hold on to it. You're not going to stop walking in the woods just because you saw a rattlesnake once, 12 years ago, in the Rocky Mountains. That's ridiculous. The best thing you can do is become comfortable with the different states of your mind. This way, you won't panic when your mind goes through different emotions. The same goes for your heart. If someone you love dies, of course, your heart is going to hurt. If it doesn't, there's something wrong. If someone asks, "How can I stop my heart from hurting when someone I love dies?" the answer is, you can't. But you can find comfort in the fact that your heart hurts because it loved deeply. When I talk to people about this, I tell them, let your heart express that pain because it's also an expression of love. It's natural. If you're comfortable with it, you're healthy. The pain will pass and it won't leave scars. Instead, you'll remember the beauty of that relationship. You'll realize how much you loved that person, and you'll cherish those memories. You'll go through a period of healing, and eventually you'll be open to loving again. You won't say, "I'm never doing that again. I don't want to talk to anyone. God is cruel for taking that person away." No, you'll let your mind and heart go through the process naturally. But what if something happens that disturbs your mind? The key is to notice it, allow it to pass, and stay strong and healthy. You can't free yourself by fighting against your mind. That's not the way to do it. We're not here to battle our thoughts. You can't force the ripples in your mind to be still. What you can do is learn to be okay with the ripples. Let me explain this with what I call primary and secondary ripples. Now, this is just my way of talking, not something from ancient texts like the Vedas. Primary ripples are the initial reactions when something happens in the world, and it creates a disturbance in your mind. This is natural and okay. You need to get comfortable with these ripples, with the way your mind reflects what's happening around you. The problem arises with what I call secondary ripples. These happen when you start resisting, trying to take the leaf out of the water, or trying to prevent it from coming back. You might push the experience away, suppress it, or refuse to accept it. This just makes things worse. When you flap your wings like a bird trying to stop the ripples, you actually create more ripples. Let me say that again because it's important. You create more ripples by trying to force them to stop. When you're caught up in struggling with the past, worrying about the future, or overthinking why someone said or did something, you're the one causing the extra ripples. Yes, there are natural ripples that reflect the nature of what happened. These ripples will come, and they will go. That's it. There's no need to fight them or try to make them go away faster. Just let them be, and they'll settle down on their own. Here's a simple way to think about it. Just stay calm. Don't react by getting upset or trying to fight against what's happening. Don't let your mind start spinning with ideas about what should or shouldn't be, like thinking, "This is wrong, and I have the right to be angry." Why do you want to hold on to anger? What good does it do? There's no such thing as righteous anger. It doesn't exist. Instead, think about this. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the earth. There's something powerful about a person who is calm and centered. Such a person can stand in the middle of chaos and still bring peace. That's what you should aim for. A calm strength that can create harmony, even in tough situations. It's a big difference from getting caught up in anger, isn't it? That's what being a peaceful activist is about. Most of the time, around 95%, the turmoil in your mind isn't caused by what's actually happening. It's caused by how you're reacting to it. Then you react to your own reaction and it just keeps going in circles. It becomes so complicated in your mind that you can't even think clearly. So what's the way out? It's simple. Stop reacting. Don't try to control everything or force the mind to be quiet. Instead, just relax and let the ripples in your mind settle down on their own. It takes time, but the key is to relax and let go. You know when you're getting caught up in your thoughts and reactions? At some point, your only job is to relax. Just tell yourself, it's okay, relax. Step back from what's happening. The ripples are in front of you, but you're lying on top of them. Relax and let go, and one day you'll find yourself floating above them effortlessly. Don't try to force it, because that's just your mind trying to control things again. Just relax and release. Stop being so interested in every little thing your mind says, because most of it, about 95%, is just noise. You'll see that a lot of it is about trying to fix things. Do you have a Mr. Fix-It or Miss Fix-It in your head, always trying to solve every problem? The truth is, when you try to stop the ripples by thinking more, you're just creating more ripples. It's that simple. Learning to relax is what meditation is all about, but I don't want you to just relax when you're meditating on a pillow. I want you to practice this every moment of your life. For example, imagine you're driving and the car in front of you is going 10 miles per hour below the speed limit. You're in a rush and your mind starts racing, thinking things like, "Come on, can't you see the speed limit is 55? Why are you going so slow? You should be in the right lane." What's all that inner chatter doing for you? It's just creating more stress, more ripples in your mind. Yes, the driver is going slower than you'd like. Notice it, accept it, and understand that you might be a little late because of it. But all that extra stuff you're doing in your head, that's just making you more anxious. Then you might even start thinking, "I need to move somewhere else. I can't stand driving here anymore." But the truth is, it's not the place that's the problem. It's how you're reacting to it. So how do you relax when someone's driving slowly? Figure it out. There's no special technique I'm going to give you for that. The point is, learn to relax and let go, no matter what's happening around you. If you're not used to doing something, you need to learn how to do it. Like when you're learning to play the piano, you need to know the techniques. If you're playing scales and hit the wrong note, the teacher might say, "No, that's not right." Maybe you thought it sounded better your way, but you need to learn the correct technique first. But here's the thing. Once you know how to do something, you don't need a technique to stop doing it the wrong way. You just decide, "Okay, that wasn't right," and play it correctly. The same idea applies here. When you're in a situation, like driving, and your mind starts filling with all these negative thoughts, you need to be aware of what's happening. You realize there's no benefit in letting these thoughts stir up more stress. So, instead of adding to the mental noise, you choose to relax. There's no special technique for this. Just make the decision to let go of the tension. I'm telling you, there's a part of you that always feels like it needs to do something, to react to everything. But you need to relax. Don't come back saying, "My mind just won't relax." That's like saying the ripples in water won't go away. You're supposed to acknowledge and accept those ripples. They're natural. But don't create extra ripples by overreacting. That's why I talk about primary and secondary ripples. When you relax, the primary ripples will run their course. Eventually, the situation, like the slow driver, will pass, and you'll feel relieved that you didn't make things worse by overreacting. Imagine you're stuck at a train crossing. Instead of complaining about being delayed, try counting the train cars like a child might. Kids often find joy in simple things like that. Look, it's the caboose. Be like that. Find the fun in little things. I call this dealing with low-hanging fruit. If you can learn to not create problems for yourself with small things, you'll be able to handle bigger challenges more easily. Eventually, when you relax, it means you're not fixated on the ripples in your mind. You notice them, but you don't let them control you. They come and go, and that's okay. Let's say someone gets sick and misses a day of work. Some people might just take it in stride, go back to work and move on. Others might worry, thinking, "What if it happens again? What if I lose my job?" and create even more stress for themselves, Which one are you? The person who can handle things, or the person who can't? Stop trying to solve every little worry because there's no answer to that kind of thinking. The only solution is to relax and not create those secondary ripples. When you do that, you'll notice that the primary ripples aren't so hard to deal with. Yes, the world is constantly changing, but you'll be okay with that. Eventually, you'll start to rise above it all. It's like you're in a hot air balloon tethered to the ground. But as you relax, you start to float higher, leaving all the noise and chaos behind. Now, how do you rise up? Do you need to add more hot air or increase the fire to get more helium in the balloon? No, you don't need to do anything like that. The answer is simple. Just cut the tethers. But you might wonder, how will I go up if I cut the tethers? The truth is, once you cut the tethers, you automatically rise. There's nothing else you need to do. Do you see what I mean? So don't get caught up in complicated ideas or worry about all that spiritual stuff. Just stop messing with the ripples in your mind. Relax. Let them pass. But what if the ripples aren't going away? They will, if you leave them alone. How long will it take? That's not something you need to worry about. It might not make sense to you, but trust that it will happen. Now, let's say you let go. But what if cutting the tether is difficult? How can you rise without cutting it? The truth is, you can't. But what if it takes longer than you expected? Stay with it. Just focus on doing what you need to do to cut those tethers. Focus on relaxing in the face of the ripples. I'm really urging you here, relax when those ripples come. If you do, they will eventually pass. If you don't relax, you'll end up pushing them down, and they won't go away. They'll keep coming back, trying to pass, and they'll keep bothering you for the rest of your life. But when you do relax, you'll notice you start to feel happier. You might wonder, why am I happy? How could this make me happier? You'll realize it's because your natural state is happiness, joy, and love. But then you might ask, how can I feel love if I don't have anyone in my life? You'll come to see that love isn't about other people. It's about your own inner state of beauty and openness. As you rise higher and higher, those ripples in your mind won't bother you nearly as much. As you keep relaxing and letting go, you'll start to rise even more. Eventually, you'll feel real joy, like ecstasy, the highest state you've ever felt when your mind was quiet. Imagine holding your child for the first time or being on your wedding day, and that feeling of pure joy never fades. It just keeps growing, no matter what's happening around you. That's what true yoga is. At this point, you're at a higher level of being. You keep getting pulled up into this state of joy, and eventually, you'll rise so high above your personal self that you'll realize you're completely free from all those ripples and worries. You'll understand that you're not connected to that water or those ripples at all. You'll merge into something much greater. Thank you for listening.